I want you to picture a very specific and probably very annoying person. You know this person.
Oh, I think I do.
Maybe you work with them. They're the one who seems to have somehow, I don't know, hacked the simulation of life.
Right.
They are crushing it at work. Their inbox is empty. They're learning a new language. Their house is spotless. And they still have time to grab a drink with you on a Tuesday.
Meanwhile, you're just
Drowning in unread emails and like a dozen half-finished projects.
It's the 28-hour-day syndrome. It feels like they have more time than you do, but I mean, obviously they don't.
Right. And that feeling, that disparity between people who are just busy and people who are actually effective, that's what we're unpacking today. We're doing a deep dive into what is, I think, arguably, the Bible of productivity. Brian Tracy's Eat That Frog.
A total classic.
But we're not just reading the book. We're looking at it through the lens of a really sharp analysis by Pinar Eskin, who sort of breaks down the mechanics of why this stuff actually works.
And this is foundational material. I mean, if you work in any kind of professional setting, you've probably heard the title. But most people, they just stop at the title.
Yeah.
They miss the whole system underneath. And the source material here, it isn't about working harder or sleeping less. It's actually about the opposite.
Really?
It's about escaping what Erskine calls the operational loop.
Okay, that phrase, operational loop, that really stuck out to me in the reading. It's that state where you're moving fast, you're exhausted, you're sweating, but you're not actually going anywhere.
Exactly. You're on a treadmill. And the mission of this deep dive is to get off the treadmill and start climbing a mountain. But to do that,
You have to talk about the frog.
we have to talk about the frog.
It's such a vivid and slightly gross metaphor.
It's aggressive, right? It comes from an old saying, often attributed to Mark Twain. If it's your job to eat a frog, it's best to do it first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
And if it's your job to eat 2 frogs, it's best to eat the biggest one first.
Okay, let's unpack this for anyone who hasn't heard it. The frog is not a literal amphibian we're having for breakfast.
Correct. The frog represents your biggest, most important task.
The big one.
It's the task you are most likely to procrastinate on because it's difficult, it's complex, maybe it's intimidating. But, and this is the crucial part, it is also the task that will have the greatest positive impact on your life and career right now.
So clearing out my spam folder is not a frog.
Definitely not. That's a tadpole, maybe even just pond scum.
Okay.
The frog is writing the strategic proposal. It's having that difficult negotiation. It's learning the new software that scares you. And the core philosophy is simple. You have to eat the frog before you do anything else.
Which sounds great on paper, but the source material highlights a really big problem right at the start. Most people don't even know which task is the frog.
No idea. They're just blindly busy.
Right.
And that's the clarity trap. Pinar Eskin uses this great metaphor in her analysis. She says many people are climbing a mountain with incredible effort. They're suffering, sacrificing weekends, just grinding away.
But they never stop to check if they're on the right mountain.
They never stop to verify if the summit they are climbing toward is actually where they want to go.
That is a terrifying thought. Reaching the top, looking around, and realizing you're on the wrong one.
It happens all the time. And that brings us to the first pillar of this system, clarity. Tracy argues that before you can be productive, you have to be clear. And there's a specific mechanism for this that sounds almost too simple to work.
You have to write it down.
You have to write it down.
This is one of those things where I feel like everyone just nods and says, yeah, write down goals, but who actually does it?
You nailed it. The source cites a statistic here that honestly, it blew my mind. Only about 3% of adults manage their time with clear written goals.
Wait, only 3%?
This is 3%. The vast majority of people, they just carry their goals around in their heads. I want to get promoted, or, I want to write a book. But here's the picker. That 3% who write them down accomplish 5 to 10 times more than the people who don't. Even if the other people are just as educated or talented.
5 to 10 times? That is a massive gap. What is actually happening there? Is it magic?
It's psychology. When a goal is just in your head, it's abstract, it's a fantasy, it's fluid.
Yeah.
When you write it down, you're crystallizing it.
Okay.
You are taking a thought and turning it into a physical object in the real world. You are essentially signing a contract with yourself.
A contract with yourself. I like that.
Yeah, it changes how your brain relates to the task.
Yeah.
And the source emphasizes that this contract needs terms, specifically deadlines.
A goal without a deadline is just a wish.
Exactly. You can't say, I'll finish this project soon. You have to say, I will submit the final draft by 5:30 p.m. on Thursday, June 12th.
Because without the deadline, there's no urgency. The operational loop of emails and Slack messages will just expand to fill that void.
Exactly. The deadline builds a fence around the goal.
Okay, so step one, we identify the right mountain, we write down the goal, and we set a deadline. But now I'm standing at the bottom of the mountain looking up, and it's huge. This is usually where I freeze.
The goal is too big,
Yeah,
and that paralysis is totally normal. The antidote, according to the source, is the list.
just a list.
A comprehensive list. Before you start climbing, you list every single step required to get there. Everything from buy hiking boots to book the flight to train cardio. The source suggests that once you organize this list, you no longer have a scary goal.
You have a project
So
plan.
you have a project plan. And working from a list increases efficiency by 25%, like from day one.
That's a huge return on investment for 5 minutes of planning. But I can hear listeners screaming right now. They're saying, great, I made a list. Now I have a list with 145 items on it. Now I'm not just paralyzed, I'm overwhelmed.
And they are right to feel that way. A raw list is dangerous because it treats every item as equal.
Right.
Buy milk looks the same on the page as redefine company strategy. And this brings us to what I think is the most famous and most practical tool in the book, the ABCDE method.
Let's break this down, because I think most of us prioritize by what's screaming the loudest or...
What just landed in my inbox?
Yes, which is the worst way to prioritize.
The worst.
Yeah.
The ABCDE method forces you to rank tasks by consequence. That is the filter, not urgency, but consequence.
So walk us through the alphabet here. A.
Okay, A tasks. These are your frogs. These are the things you must do. If you don't do them, there are serious negative consequences. You lose your job, you fail the class, you miss the big opportunity.
And if I have multiple frogs, more than one A task,
You rank them. A1 is the biggest, ugliest frog. A2 is the next one, and you eat A1 first.
okay, simple enough. What's B?
B, tasks are should-dos. These are important, but the consequences are mild. Returning a standard email, attending a weekly update meeting. If you miss it, someone might be annoyed, but the building won't burn down. And here's the golden rule of this entire method.
Uh-oh.
Never do a B task when there is an A task left undone.
Oof. I feel called out. I think I spent half my life in B territory because it feels like work.
It feels like work, and you get that little dopamine hit of checking a box. We call that productive procrastination.
Yeah.
You are productively avoiding the thing that actually matters. You're clearing your inbox, a B task, while your major project, the A task, just sits there untouched.
Okay, let's move quickly through the rest. C, D, E.
C is nice to do. Lunch with a colleague, calling a friend, no real work consequences. D is for delegate. This is crucial. If someone else can do it, you have to pass it off to free up time for your A tasks. And E is eliminate.
Delete it from the list.
Ruthlessly. These are time wasters. Or, and this is interesting, tasks that used to be important but aren't anymore. We often keep doing things just out of habit. E says, stop doing them.
So the goal is to filter this whole list until you were just staring directly at A1.
Exactly. But there is a deeper level here. It's easy to say prioritize, but sometimes it's really hard to tell the difference between urgent and important in the heat of the moment, you know?
For sure. And the source brings in a really fascinating piece of research here to help with that. The Banfield study.
Yes, Dr. Edward Banfield from Harvard. This gives the whole concept some serious academic weight. Banfield spent 50 years, half a century, studying social mobility. He wanted to know, what is the single greatest indicator that a family or individual will move up the socioeconomic ladder?
My guess would be, I don't know, intelligence or education or maybe just having the right connections.
You would think. But he controlled for all of that. The single greatest predictor was something he called time horizon.
Time horizon. What does that mean in practice?
It means long-term perspective, the ability to think 5, 10, or even 20 years into the future while making decisions today. Successful people analyze their current choices, what they are doing at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday, and they ask, does this align with where I want to be in 10 years?
That really shifts the definition of important, doesn't it?
Completely. The frog, your A1 task, is almost always the task that serves that long-term vision. The email, the busy work, the quick wins, those are usually short-term gratifications. They make you feel good now, but they don't build the future.
So if you're struggling to figure out what your frog is, put on your 10-year glasses.
Exactly.
This connects to another concept in the source material that sounds, well, contradictory at first: creative procrastination.
I love this term. We usually think of procrastination as a sin, right? A moral failing.
Right.
But Tracy and Eskin, in her analysis, argues that you cannot do everything. It is physically impossible to clear the entire list. Therefore, you must procrastinate on something.
So the difference between a high performer and a low performer isn't that one procrastinates and the other doesn't.
Right. It's what they choose to procrastinate on. High performers procrastinate deliberately. They decide in advance to procrastinate on low-value tasks.
The source gives a personal example from PR Eskind about her email habits that I found really interesting.
Yes. She deliberately procrastinates on answering emails in the morning. She might let them sit for hours.
Which gives a lot of people anxiety just hearing about it.
It does. In a lot of corporate cultures, that's seen as being unresponsive. But she does it to protect her A task, which might be content creation or strategic planning.
Oh.
If she answers emails first, she uses up her best mental energy, her prime time, on a bunch of B tasks.
It's about being okay with letting small fires burn so you can build the house.
That's a perfect way to put it. And to help with this creative procrastination, the source offers a checklist of 4 questions to ask yourself when a task lands on your desk. These are your filters.
Let's run through them.
Okay. Question 1. Does this serve my long-term goal? If no, it's a candidate for elimination. Question 2. Can this be automated?
That's a huge one today, with AI and software and everything.
Massive. If it serves the goal, do you have to do it manually? Question 3, can this be delegated? And question 4, which I think is very clever, is there a faster alternative?
The source gave a great example of this, reading digital books instead of physical ones for research.
Yes. If the goal is acquire knowledge for a project, searching a digital text is way faster than flipping pages. It achieves the same outcome, but frees up time. It's about challenging the method of the work, not just the work itself.
We often do things the hard way just because that's how we've always done them.
That's it.
So we've prioritized, we've adopted a long-term view, and we're creatively procrastinating on the junk. Now we actually have to sit down and do the work. We have to eat the frog. The source talks a lot about momentum here.
This is the physics of productivity. The source uses the bicycle analogy.
Okay.
Think about riding a bike. The hardest part is that very first pedal stroke. You have to push so hard to get moving from a dead stop. But once you're rolling, maintaining speed takes very little energy.
So starting is the energy hog.
Exactly. That's why interruptions are so deadly. The source cites a specific statistic. If you break your focus, say, to get a coffee or check a notification, it takes approximately 17 minutes to regain that full level of concentration.
17 minutes. That seems incredibly high.
It's the switching cost. Your brain has to offload the context of the distraction and then reload the complex context of your work. If you get interrupted 3 times in an hour, you've lost almost all of your deep work quality.
Even if the interruptions are only a minute long.
Yep. That explains why days full of meetings feel so unproductive. You never get that 17-minute run-up.
That makes so much sense.
Precisely. That's why the source insists on clearing the decks. Before you start your A task, you get your water, you get your files, you get everything ready. You make it so you have 0 excuses to get up.
And they recommend time blocking for this, right?
Yeah.
Not just trying to squeeze it in.
Yes, large chunks, 60 to 90 minutes. You can't eat a frog in 10-minute increments between meetings. You need deep, uninterrupted flow.
But what if the frog is it's too big? Even with the time block, it feels impossible. Let's say my frog is, write the annual report. I look at that and I just want to go clean the kitchen.
That's when you slice the salami.
I'm getting hungry with all these food metaphors. Frogs, salami.
It works, though. If the task is write the report, that's too big. You'll freeze. If you slice the salami, the task becomes draft the bullet points for the introduction.
That's manageable.
That's manageable. And crucially, doing that one small slice counts as the first pedal stroke on the bike.
It triggers the momentum.
Exactly. Once you do the slice, you're moving. And you'll often find yourself just doing the next slice automatically.
I want to pivot to something the source touches on towards the end. What if you have the list, you have the time block, you've sliced the salami, and you still can't get started? You're just paralyzed.
The source identifies 2 deeper root causes for this specific kind of paralysis. It's usually not laziness. It's either a skill gap or a constraint.
Let's break those down. What's the skill gap?
Simply put, you might be procrastinating because you don't actually know how to do the task, and you're maybe afraid to admit it. The source mentions Poonar's own struggle with budgeting and analytics. She procrastinated because it wasn't her strong suit.
So the solution isn't try harder, it's Learn or delegate.
Precisely. Once you identify that you lack the skill, the path becomes clear. You stop beating yourself up and you start looking for a tutorial or a helper.
And the second cause is a constraint.
A constraint is a bottleneck. It could be external, like waiting for approval from a boss, or internal, like a limiting belief or fear of failure. You have to identify the choke point. If the choke point is external, no amount of willpower will solve it. You have to solve the bottleneck first.
And speaking of blockages, we have to talk about the elephant in the room. Or maybe the digital frog in the room. Technology.
Ah, yes. The servant that became the master.
The source is pretty firm on this. Technology is a tool, but for most of us, it's an addiction.
It is. And the source suggests a very specific and I think somewhat radical habit to reclaim your mind, the dumb phone walk.
I loved this detail. Tell us about it.
Panar mentions that she sometimes goes for a walk with a non-smartphone. You know, an old-school button phone.
Like a burner phone?
Basically. It can make calls in an emergency, but it has no email, no social media, no browser.
That sounds quiet.
That's the point. It forces your mind to wander. It allows you to think without the constant dopamine hits of notifications. It's in those quiet moments that you often clarify what your A task actually is.
It's funny how we've looped back. We started with the need for clarity, and we're ending with a tool, the dumb phone, that gives you the mental space to find that clarity.
It's all connected. You can't find the frog if you're staring at a screen scrolling through other people's lives.
So let's wrap this up. We've covered a lot of ground. We've got the frog, the ABCDE method, the contract of writing goals down.
And remember, the core message here isn't about becoming a robot. Planning increases efficiency by 25%, but the goal of that efficiency isn't just to do more work. It's to do the right work. It's about impact.
It's about ensuring that when you get to the top of the mountain, it's a mountain you actually wanted to climb.
Exactly.
Before we go, I want to leave our listener with a challenge. We talked about Dr. Banfield and the long-term perspective. I want you, the listener, to look at your to-do list right now, not tomorrow, right now.
And apply that Banfield lens.
Yes. Imagine it is 10 years from now. You are looking back at today. Which of those urgent emails or meetings will you even remember? Probably none. They are E-tasks, masquerading as A-tasks.
Mm-hmm.
But is there one thing on that list, maybe something you've been ignoring because it's hard, that could actually change where you are in 10 years? That is your frog.
Go eat it.
Thanks for diving in with us.
See you next time.